Okay, so let's continue. So we are live on YouTube and on Telegram. So let's continue with what we're talking about. So this is supposed to be an introductory class into a far more deeper class we'll be having over the course of this entire program. And one of the things you will discover is I'm very hands-on, so I will be more specific about what you can do as opposed to the theory. We'll be doing a lot of practical, so that you will see me do a lot. I was talking about HTML. We have several courses we are going to be covering. I mentioned HTML, I mentioned CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap. That's more like a framework. And then we are going to be doing React.js, more like an introductory, but we're going to cover React.js. So we are starting with HTML. HTML is everywhere. That was where I stopped last time. What does it mean? What do I mean by HTML is everywhere? Everything that we do is based on HTML. Everything that you see on the web. That's why I opened this web page. So if you go to yahoo.com or google.com, everything there is an HTML document. This page you are looking at is called a web page. This other page you are seeing as well is also called a web page. That's the web page is made up of HTML tags, code, syntax. So we're gonna see that right away. So if you go to your browser and then you do view source code, all these things you are seeing here, just ignore all the jargons. Everything you are seeing here is what is called HTML code, and this code are the things that I'll be teaching you how to write them. By the way, you don't need to get scared, and that's why you are doing this course, to understand what all these are. Not that at the long run you'll be writing all these codes, but the understanding is very important, to know what it's all about. So you can see deep down on every page, there's what we call HTML page. So all HTML pages have their own source code. It's publicly available. We'll get that into detail on that. Again, I was talking about what this course is going to cover. This course is covering web page, front-end web development. What that means is that you will be the one responsible for designing the front end of what the user sees, what the user interacts with. Those will be your responsibility as a front-end web developer. You will be the one that will decide where images will sit, what kind of fonts you need to use, what kind of icon, the way it's going to look and feel over time will be your responsibility as a front-end web developer. That is the entire what the entire course will be covering. So your next step is to create an environment for you to code. What kind of environment do you need to code? What do you need? Of course, I'm assuming everybody here should have a laptop. You need a laptop, and the laptop needs a specification. Minimum specification. We will not waste time too much on this video. We already have a video that already talk about specifications, so we skip that. The next thing we want to look at is what are the tools that you need to make this work. You need VS Code. That's Visual Studio Code. You could actually use any editor, but we are recommending you use Visual Studio Code, and that's because of it has a lot of features. So a lot of features that you are going to enjoy and need, to make your life way more easier. There's quite a lot of things you are going to go into when you start coding. So you don't want the editor to give you trouble. So you need something that will really make your job easier. So the first thing you do is to download. When you visit the site, immediately it presents you with a download button for you to go ahead and download the tool. Depending on your operating system, you can choose the flavor that you want that will be suitable for your operating system. I'm using a Mac, so I could just easily download a Mac version. Installation should be no problem for you at this stage. So after you might have installed it, you will be left with something like this. This is what you have, whereby you can now start designing your project. A web page is just like every other document. A web page is like Microsoft Word. a web page is just like an Excel document. They are all the same thing. So I'm going to prove that to you. I'm going to show you that. So first thing to do is we open our project up. This is our Visual Studio Code. We want to start up with a file. We want to open a document. So because we're doing this for the first time, we can just create a, what's it called now? We create a folder where all our info will be recorded, and we can use that to be doing our lessons. So I'm going to create a folder here and call it, if I don't have one for, let's just say lessons. And I have my folder there. So that's what we have now. We now have our folder opened, but now we can then create a file inside our folder. You can do all this with the Windows, with your normal, using your normal Windows utility, but we're just making use of the editor to do that for us. Now, the name of your file can be anything. So let's just do test.html. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. And again, you notice the extension .html, just like you have your doc documents, that's Microsoft Word. It has .doc. Excel has .xls. PDF has .pdf. So the same thing with a web page. A web page has .html. Again, sometimes you can remove the L and do HTML or HTML. Any one you prefer will just work. So we'll go ahead and create our test file. This is our test file. It's blank. It's blank. And we can go ahead and do a live and show the file where it's located. I will just say open reveal file in the folder so that I can see the file that is created. I have it here. This is our test file. So we can go ahead and start writing code. Before I write code, I just want to open the file just to show you what we will see. If you open it up, I want to open it up in Firefox. So if you open it up here, of course, it's blank, nothing. The file is empty. And from here, you can type anything. I'm not introducing code to you guys yet. I just want to show you what we have, the way the browser works. So if I refresh this, you see your hello world. Even though you didn't write anything special, by just putting any text here, we actually render whatever you have inside a browser. And that tells you something about web pages. Web pages are very, I'll use the word forgiving, meaning that they are not restrictive to what can happen. You can virtually write, even do a bad front end job, and it will still show you something. Front end lack what we called that's web page HTML, to be specific. It lacks any programming feel, and that's why you hear, well, for most people they will say HTML is not a programming language, because it doesn't tell you anything, doesn't give you any error. It just displays whatever it shows there. By the time we get to JavaScript, you will understand what I mean by expression that gives you error and whatnot. And by the way, you guys can use the WhatsApp to send questions, so that the lessons can be back and forth. So you can send me a question. You can even drop it on the group, or you can drop it on the chat, or on YouTube as well. As we are streaming, you can drop it there. Okay, we are talking about what makes HTML page different from every other document. As I have demonstrated, without writing any code, as far as you specify that it is a .html page or .html file, it literally translates everything you have there and dumps it there for you. The browser doesn't have that power to start giving you error or make things fancy unless you abide by its rules. The browser has rules that you have to follow, and once you are specific, once you follow those rules, it will make you happy, to make everybody happy. Your client will be happy, you'll be happy. Everything will come out the way it's supposed to be. Everything will come out the way it's supposed to be. Okay, so let's move on. So I'll wait if you guys have a question. I think someone has a question. because the class is supposed to be interactive. One. Do you guys have a question? You can send me a question on the group or okay. So yeah, someone said they are still downloading the file. That's the yeah. We'll wait. We'll wait. So you are still downloading the that's the IDE. So you can still be downloading it while you listen to us. You can still be downloading it. You can still be downloading it while you listen to us. I think it's like let me check. VS Code. It's pretty big. I think it's either 150 MB or thereabout. They didn't put the size there. I'm guessing you're using Windows. So the size is not here. But it's pretty big. Okay. If there's no other question, I believe we'll just move on to what we have next. So I want to start introducing you to the raw. Okay, so I want to start introducing you guys to to the core things, start introducing you to something because the way we'll be working with it is that we'll be introducing you guys to something very easy that you can easily understand. We don't want to go down and just give you all the codes. So first thing you need to get in web page is that everything is a tag. I will repeat that again. Everything on a web page is a tag, is tag based. So let me open the code and explain what I mean. So I've cleared what I have before. So as I mentioned, if you put anything there, it does not concern the browser. It will just give it to you as you display it to it. This is exactly what they meant by garbage in, garbage out. So that's what they are actually trying to say here. So here I'm gonna go ahead and start telling you the syntax or the directives that must be followed to get your result, to actually get a correct web page. I will be telling you the directives to follow. One of the directives is, and the idea is that it's not about cramming, it's just that the more you do it, the more it sticks to you. So if you do it less, you will forget. So it's not even about cramming, it's the fact that you are doing it more and more. And we have exercises that will engage you so that you practice. So the first thing you need to do is to specify, that you have a start tag and an end tag. So everything in HTML is a tag. And what does the tag means? Let me make this screen big because I think it looks small. Let me increase my font. So let's make this 25. So it's key for you to understand what is going on here. This is what is called a tag. The angle brackets and then the angle bracket open and close makes up a tag. I'm going to write something, that you can just see. If I do a K is a tag. And by the way, there's nothing like a K. I'm just trying to let you be free with what a tag is. So a tag is written like this by saying open and close. The first thing you see here is a tag, while the second one is the closing tag. And if you look at the difference is this column here, this forward backward slash. That depicts that the second one is a close tag. Then the first one, what shows that it's a first tag is because it's appearing first. Then the other one is close tag. Everything in HTML is a tag. So whatever happens is that you have content of a tag. So here now we have start tag of an HTML and then you have end tag for HTML. Whatever is inside between 2 and 5 are the content of the HTML. So everything here, you can write anything here. We'll explain as we go on. So what I've just explained to you is start tag and end tag. Very important. Everything in HTML has start tag and end tag. There are some that just have empty tags. We'll get to that when we get type of tags. So we have start tags and end tag. The next thing that follows the directives of a standard HTML page is the header. So the head says what is going to happen to the head contains the meta information of the document. Just like if you open a Microsoft Word, you will notice that there are some places where you specify the properties that says this is the creator of this document, this is the owner of the document, this document was created by this establishment. If I open a Word document, I think you will see that. I like to use real world scenario to paint what you are supposed to see in the system. That way you get to understand what's going on better. So as I mentioned, head contains, I was trying to bring up a Word document so that we can see what I was trying to say. So this document itself has some meta information about it that talks about where the document was, who is the author of the document. I can't find that right now. But if you are used to Microsoft Word or any other document for that matter, you will notice that this document has like a meta information that tells you more about those files. So in case of HTML, those meta information is being captured in the head section. So this page you are creating, you want to say, okay, this page, the title is my first page. And by the way, from the word title, it tells you that that is the title of the page. There are other information I don't want to introduce right now because we are just starting. I'm showing you the bare minimum that you must have that will make your page make sense, for a starter. So I don't want to load you with all the meta information that is available in the head. There's a lot of meta information that you can actually, use on the head, like description, like the author, like quite a lot. Like even for search engine optimization, you can present quite a lot of information. That's even where you attach the CSS, the style sheet and what have you. By the time we get to those parts, you get to learn all those things. But for now, we're just sticking to the title. And that title, what it does is just to display the title of the page. So if I save this now and I go to the browser, so you notice that in the browser, we have my first page on the title. So you can see where my mouse is. You can see that. You can see that that's the work of what we just did. This single line. That was what was responsible for that single line. So let's make it fun and just put something interesting. Let me just put this happy face just to show you what's going on there. And if I save, I go back to that, I refresh my page, I have my happy face there. That's what you have there. In fact, I even forgot, you can also have, this is where you also have your favor icon. That's the icon for the page. So let me show you what I mean by the icon of the page. Notice Visual Studio Code. You notice their icon. Notice Google. Notice their icon. They were able to do that using this part here. Not this one I added here, by the way. They were able to do it using another line of code that reference that this is to specify the icon for the web page. I don't want us to digress and go into that. Just want to focus on the basic things and get us going. Okay, the next thing we will need to do is, and by the way, as we are going through the system, notice some steps. Notice the way that we've designed the program in such a way that they are in form of steps. We call this nested. Everything is inside HTML, and head has like one title, or rather has one tag inside of it. So I call each of these, they are called tags, or you also hear them call them HTML elements. All these are elements, elements, elements. So we have 4 elements now. HTML element 1, head 1, title 1, or rather 3 elements rather. So we have that way. So let's move on to the next thing. The next thing is one of the most important parts of this whole project, which is the body. The body, as the name suggests, is where you put the content of the site. So I can come here and do hello, hello, this is my first page. So I can do that and save and go to the browser to see what I've done. If I refresh, I get to see that, what I've done. I get to see what I've done here. Notice that even without all this, we could achieve all these things by just going straight to the point and just doing something like this. But what we get in return, we get something that is not a standard. Number one, we didn't have a title. Number two, even though we had what we had there, it worked, but it is not a standard. You have to follow the standard. And the reason why it just works is because it is HTML. HTML does not really enforce you to do anything. If you do anything wrong, it will not try to correct you. It will just display whatever wrong thing that you have specified, and it could be frustrating, because I've seen many people call us and then ask us to help resolve what they've done. Once you know the rules of the game, it makes it very easy for you to be on the right side. So very easy. Start tag must have a close tag, and you can see how we've done it. HTML start tag is ending here. We have HTML close tag, head, title, body. Very easy for it to work. So the next thing, again, I want to demonstrate before I ask if there's any question, is to, okay, I think I will throw if there's any question here, right here, before I move on to the next thing I want to demonstrate. Let me see if you have any question. So are you done with the downloading now? Someone was downloading before now. I'm sure they should have finished downloading by now. Okay, let's move on to the next thing that we have here. The next thing I want to show you is to show you the power of what you are going to be doing, and it's just a glimpse of what you'll be getting. There's a video on the YouTube that you're supposed to practice on, and the idea is to get you busy and to get you used to these tags. Most of the time you'll find it is difficult for you to even find these characters on your keyboard, but when you do this often, it becomes very easy for you to navigate. It will just be like typing down the system. What we want to introduce is CSS. We are way not even started HTML, and then we are going to CSS. We are not going as a topic. I just want to show you how CSS looks like and how it complements HTML, because looking at the site like this is very boring. Like, how do we get from this to this? Because this is an HTML page. This is an HTML page, beautiful one for that matter. So someone have a question. Okay, yes, installing to got stuck on how you got here. Okay, so if I hear you correctly, so you want to know how we got to this page. Okay, so how we got here is we go to open the browser, and this I think our next virtual meeting will be on Zoom, so that we can have it interactive as opposed to be chatting. So our next meeting, our next virtual class will be on Zoom, so that we can have back and forth as opposed to typing. That will even help us to be able to explain better and able to hear you, and if possible you can also share your screen if there are issues that we need to resolve quickly, if it won't delay the whole class entirely. So if I get you, I want to restart how I got to this page, because sometimes it could be tricky opening up this browser. So I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to close that and start up by opening on Visual Studio Code. So for the first time, if you're opening up the Visual Studio Code for the first time, it will look a little bit different from my own screen. It will look a little bit different from my own screen. So what you should do, what it's doing is opening what I've opened before. What you should do is just come to File, and you can just do a new folder. So I'm going to start up again. I'm doing a new folder, and the folder is going to be our project name. So I've done lesson 1 before. I created a folder called lesson 1. So I'm going to start and create lesson 2. Just create lesson 2. And for you, it can just be anything. And you can see that we don't have any file inside our folder. So we open it up, and it's available here. So you can see that we have that lesson under here. That's what is holding here, lesson 2. So the next point of action is to create a file inside the folder. So we're creating a file now, and as I mentioned before, you can call it anything. So we can call it so we use the default name of calling an HTML file. The default name of calling an entry point of an HTML file is index. So we do index.html or ATM. So I mentioned it, you can either do ATM or HTML, either which way that you want. So it's asking us to confirm that we really want to save into lesson 2, and then we are good to go. So and we start writing our code. So what you need to do, if you didn't get any of this, you can go back, and the video will be dropped on the group channel, so you can go back and review that so that we can move forward with the class. So I know this would have helped someone to rejuggle their memory on how to do this. This part is very important. We got so many calls on this section alone. Another thing again I want to mention, apart from also the code, are guidelines. Very important. Guidelines to good programming practice. It's very important that you follow a good programming practice to help you and also your colleagues. Even though you don't have colleagues now, but it's good for you to learn good practice of coding. One of the practice is indentation. What is indentation? So indentation is the way you write your code. So let me say we have our HTML. I'm sure you should be used to seeing this by now. Don't worry, you'll get used to it. You'll get used to seeing all this. So you need to practice with your hand. If you don't practice, this will not become second nature to you. You need to practice, and we'll talk about how you can practice and monitor how many hours you are doing. Notice on the bottom side of the screen, you can see that I've coded for 1 hour 27 minutes today. So it's very good for you to monitor your progress, how long you've been practicing. So we will share those tips with you on how you can get those tools that will enable you practice and monitor the time you spent. I will also tell you how long, minimum that you should practice, so that to know if you are progressing or not. So going back here and doing my title page, I'll do my title page. The next thing we have is body. I want to teach you indentation. Body. Hello world. Okay, so we have this way. This code is properly indented. What does that mean? What's the meaning of indentation? Indentation makes it easy for you to read. Now let me show you a code that is not properly indented. This is a code that is not properly indented. I can make it worse by doing something like this. And by the way, it's still going to work. The code is going to work if you run it. It's not going to give any issue. It's going to work correctly, and in fact, it's even safe space writing it this way, but it's very bad. Nobody will be able to read your code. Even me, I can't read this code. Notice when we opened source code for Google, notice that everything was cramped together. And that's the source code. Nobody will be reading that. So that's good for the computer to render. But when you are writing code that you will be going back to read, it's good for you to make it look like this, so that you can easily read it. If you are looking for something here now, it's easy for you to quickly pick it and then go and correct. Okay, so let me just show you just a tip of CSS. Just a tip of CSS before we go into the next topic. So let me show you. Let's open this up in a browser. So remember we switched to lesson 2, and then we have it indexed. Okay, so what is yeah, this is an introductory class to the whole project, by the way. So it's not just for HTML. It's to introduce you to everything, and then to now prepare you, ahead of the whole class. So CSS, what is CSS all about? CSS is cascading style sheet. CSS is what is responsible for beautifying your website. So seeing something like this, oh, this is looking nice. How did they do it? So I'll just quickly do a Google page for you. I didn't plan this, but let's just quickly duplicate this page, and see how we can do it. We'll try as much as possible not to introduce complex elements. Just make it very simple. And by the way, I don't expect you to understand everything I'm showing you now. It's just to walk you through it so that you appreciate what you're about to learn. That's the purpose. So let's go to it, and let's start this. Again, I want to show you how to do that. So what I would do, I want to show you side by side. That way it makes it fun and interesting for you to look at, so that you will not be looking at boring page. So I want to put this side just the way I normally do my videos. And by the way, yeah, you will want to have a dedicated browser for programming, for testing your code out. We recommend using Firefox, but you can use any one that you're comfortable with. So the idea is to design this Google page. I prefer the one that had those colors, but we'll just put in colors by ourselves. So let's go ahead. We're going to just do only this Google and this button and this other button. We're not going to do anything so spectacular, just straightforward. Okay, first thing first is to write the word Google, right? And then we do it here. The next thing is to come down and put our search bar here, and that is done by a new element which I'm going to introduce. Is called input. Again, not to worry about this, we're going to talk about that by the time we get to forms. So you can see this line of code is responsible for this input box. So there's more now to start doing. The next thing we want to do is to make this one come at the bottom. And that's one thing you notice with HTML. It doesn't respect anything. You have to give it directives. You have to tell it what to do. You have to say, this one, I want it to come down. So it doesn't know what you want. You are the designer. You have to tell the code what you want it to. Everything, you have to be intentional in what you want to achieve. You have to have that design in your head. In this case, this is the design we have in our head. And then you have to be intentional. So let's even go ahead and put these two buttons right away. So again, I don't want to be too specific in design so that we will not wow you too much. So let's just do buttons. Let me do Okay, so Google search, feeling lucky. In fact, let me use another method and I will explain why later. So I do Google search. Then the second one, I am okay. One of the things that I want to correct, or I want to is the one of the things I want to correct is how to break things up, because everything seems to be going in straight line. How do you break them up? So we can use the BR to break. BR is one of those elements that doesn't have start and opening tag. You will also notice this one too does not have start and opening tag. Any tag that does not have start and opening tag will just terminate itself immediately. So you can see that immediately we start it, we terminate it. Input tag as well, immediately you start it, you terminate it. So it's just few tags that are like that don't have both start and end tag. So immediately we do that, notice that the BR means break. We want to break the line. We want it to come this way. So that's what we've been able to achieve. We also need to achieve the same thing here, and we add the BR after our input tag such that it will break this line. So what you notice is that the browser interprets our code line by line. It interprets this, put the Google here, look at the break, it breaks it, the input, it provides input box like that, and we have all this. Okay, the next thing is we want to make sure that our font is so big. We want to make our font big. Again, I won't do so much design, just basic, so that we can get off this topic and move to the next thing. So the next thing is I want to make this, as big as this. We then go into designing. That's what we call CSS, Cascadal Style Sheet. Even though here we are designing, we are breaking, we are not bringing anything to life. So how do you start doing that? Is by now specifying design on each of the elements. I'm introducing a new tag now, and it's called paragraph. Paragraph is just a container to specify that you want to have a paragraph of text, a text of paragraph. That's just what it means. So for me, I can use it to demarcate that, okay, Google should just stay one place. And paragraph itself come with break automatically. So I don't really need this break anymore, because paragraph have a breaker by itself. They are the elements that they call block elements. So there's an attribute called style that allows you to design what you want. So I will say font. So these are now specifying the size. So this is what we call CSS. CSS allows you to style individual elements on what you want. So look at it now, it's getting a little bit complex. Just follow through. So I want to make the screen visible so that you see everything I'm doing. So again, that is not as big as what we have here. Again, notice that the font is not the same. I will not go through every detail. So you can go and find the fonts that you need for any of the projects. We'll get into deep into that later. So I think it should be in a range of 60. Okay, so let's say 55. So to manipulate font size, you just need this guy, font size, and then you put px. So we have various way to measure. By the time we go into CSS, you will know all the measurement stuffs that we have. The next thing I want to do is let's do it the same way. The background is black, even though it's not pure black. Let's do that, and then the text is white. Let's do that. How do you specify the background to be white? We style the whole of the body. Just notice where I'm highlighting. We style the whole of the body. So what controls the background? Again, you've not learned CSS, so you might not know all the parameters required. So what controls it is called background color. and we can just say as easy as just saying background color black, and that will happen. Where's our Google? Where has it gone? Of course, because Google itself is black, so it's missing in action here. So it's not as if it went away. So you have to now tell it that you want all your text to be white. So, and that brings us to having multiple styling in one element. Mind you, background body is also an element. I want to do multiple styling for body elements. This is the whole of the body, and I've specified that the background is black. I want to also say that the color should be white. So I'll just come here. That's the text color should be white. And it's as easy as that. And the system will automatically look for all the text and make them white. So the next thing I want to do is I want to specify this one to be this wide, because it's too small here in our sample. We want to make it take all the whole width. So again, I will turn to my styling. We are doing CSS now, by the way. This is CSS because CSS has to do with beautifying what you've done. So I will now say the width can be 95%, and that gets done. Notice that everything is centralized. So I want to centralize everything. I can do that by specifying it under the body element here. I want to specify it here. So I say text align center. So everything is centralized. So again, it's not, I want you to see all the arrangement that I'm doing. Oh, okay, it's rewriting my code for me. But let's move on. All the styling to the body that I did the background black, I did the text white, I centered everything. The next thing I want to do is to this one here. Again, you notice that the distance between here and here is too much. So we can control that by specifying the bottom. That's the margin between here and here. We can control that. So we can then do that under this P, because this is the P controlling it. That's it here. So there are several things you can specify. I think one of the things that is controlling it is line height, which I will set to 0 and see the results. Okay, so that's not a favorable result. I will do the bottom margin to be 0. Bottom margin, or rather margin bottom, okay. So that fixed that, but it's too tight, so we can just make it 10 or 15. Okay, so let's make it 10. The next thing we want to do is the same margin that we provided on this. We can provide the same margin here and space out what we have here, because this is too close. This one is too close to what we have here. So we can provide the same styling effect that we did for this paragraph, provide it to this input text as well. Okay, so we go and do the same bottom, margin bottom, and we can do 10px. We have that. So let's go back to what we have here. So the text here we have is white. Let's make it black. But you notice this, there's a border here, like white border. We will not do everything. We'll just try as much as possible to be close. I don't want to take our time too much. So what controls the color here? Who can guess? That I would like us to have, I really like us to have this live session next. So for us to control the color of the background, obviously our style has to be called background images. The same way we set the background for this place. Notice the property that we used. Notice the property that we use to set the background. It's called background color black. That's the same thing we're going to use to change this one to black. So we're going to add it here. Immediately you do that, it will change to black. Then you want the border to be like thin as this. But you notice that it's that circle at the edge. Don't worry, we'll fix that. So the same thing, how do you then do the border? There is a property called border, and 1px solid. We can say gray instead of white. Then if you do that, you have this. You can see that we're getting closer. Finally, before we give up and leave this part to go to the next thing, let's just put out round edges. You can see that the over effect is also there. We will not work on the over. There's a lot of stuffs in CSS. Again, this is just a demo class. I think someone is having a question. Hello. Wow, I think I've been muted for a while. Okay, so thank you for noticing that. I think we really need to use the Zoom class for our next class, the Zoom meeting for our next class. So the next thing we want to do is to provide the border, the rounded corner, and then we'll stop there, and then we'll move to the buttons. So what's responsible for our border is border radius. Border radius, you can just say 10. You can just say 10. So you notice the edges that is taken care of. So we just one more thing, yeah, because this one looks bigger. Okay, if I type, it's not showing, but if you type here, it's showing. So you have to do a text, right? So I have to say our color should be white, meaning when you type, your color should come out white. Then we can increase the font size. So you can literally do anything you want, specify any little details to give your design, the best effect that is out there. So we have that. Again, you can change the font and everything. Okay, let me have that there. Okay, so the next thing we have is the bottom part. How do we do these buttons? So that's the next thing we wanna demo next. So the buttons are here. Okay. Okay, so sorry, I had to reply to a chat there. Okay, so let's divide this section here. We want to create this. I'm going to introduce something new, and it's a way to make our work much easier. Of course, it's still the same. So we want to introduce something we call class. And class is a way for you to say, I want to attach a design, to the same element, or I want to use this to add this to a class. Or let me not even use the word class. Let me not introduce the word class. I want to style this without having a style, without calling style here. I want to style this somewhere else. So let's go and style it here. And I'll say I want to style all my A tags. These are called links. These are a way to link from one page to another. So this is what I want to use. And what I want to say in this tag, in this styling, is that I want the border. So you can look at the result that you have here. Notice that we're not going to do, well, let's do over effect just for the aesthetics so that you see what we can get. So by default, there's no border. but it has like a grayish color. Even though the background is not pure black, let's change that background that we have that is pure black. So you need to do, let's say it's 999. Again, I know mm, that's too white. Okay, let me open something that will help us with the coloring. So it's somewhere around, this coloring is one of the things that will give you a challenge. Okay, we have a transparency issue. Okay, I've gotten it. Okay, yeah. So let's use that color. Let's use this color. You can see it's getting close. Okay, so we want to make, we're talking about the button now. So first thing we need to do on the button is to set the background of the button to what color do we use now? We use this color, and then notice that there's a clear difference. There's a white. Let's zoom in. So there's a difference between the background and the button. There's a difference between the background and the button. So whatever we are using as the button background is different from the background here. So just to be clear, so let's go ahead. We're going to be needing this for a reference, and this is our background color of the button. So we go here and do background color, and we'll put all this. Of course, we're not going to see anything, so we either make it lighter or darker. So let's make it lighter. Notice that you start seeing something on the right hand side. So let's make it lighter. So this is what you have here now. Of course, it's not making sense yet, but just follow me. The next thing you need to do is to provide a padding. What does padding does? It creates a height in between and outside the elements that are working with. So you can see that it creates a distance between the text and up, right, and bottom and left. That's what padding allows you to do. So I can just make my text 100% instead of 95%. Okay, I need to put a space in between. I need to put a gap in between here and here. And that's what happened for here. Margin bottom 10 is too small. So let's do 15. Okay, let's do 20. Okay, next thing is for us to do, okay. You can reduce the font. The font size might be too much. So you can do 14 and see. Okay, so that's what we have. Again, I said I want to introduce the over effect. Notice the over effect that they have. So let's just do that one and then move on. How do you introduce over effect? This is still CSS. You are going to learn all this later. This is introduction. So you are still at HTML level. So when you put your mouse over, what do you want to happen? I want the system to highlight it, like the border effect that we see here. You have to be very, specific on what you want to achieve. So we want this effect to happen. What is responsible for that effect is the system is introducing a border. So immediately you take your mouse over it, what do you want to happen? So you notice this attribute that we have that's called on over. So we say, well, once we over, I want the border to be 1 px and to be solid, and let me say white. Let's say gray. I have to repeat this one here as well, but just for a design, you can see it's moving up and down. To stop this effect, we have to introduce this also here. But in this case, once we're introducing it here, we need to now change the color or match the color with this border is an illusion. So let me show you what I mean. Let me make it white so that everybody can see. So once I take my mouse over it, it becomes gray. So how do I make sure that you don't see that white? I will then make the white the color of this place so that that white will not become visible again. You can see that it's not shaking like before. So what is the color of the background of the site? The color of the background of the site is already here. So we'll pick it up and I go and represent it with the white. So what that means is that anytime, by default, do you see what happened? By default, it has the border of the background. So let me see what we have here. It's supposed to flush with this, but we're still able to see that color. It's not supposed to be visible. Okay, so let's not spend too much time here. So this is how you design that. Again, we could go on and on and on, but I don't want to spend too much time here. This is CSS, just introduction, or just for you to see what CSS will be all about. The next thing we want to talk about is JavaScript. But before we go to JavaScript, I would like to take questions. If there's any questions, I will just break for like 2 minutes or 1 minute. You guys can send in your question. What do you think? Before I move on to summarize what JavaScript is all about. So this session, as I mentioned, this is an introduction to the whole thing, what we are going to be facing for the next 1 month, because 1 month, we want to use 1 month to cover HTML and CSS. The remaining months will be covering other topics. So this is giving you an insight of what you are going to be facing. Okay, looks like there's no question. So let's go ahead and address the major thing that everybody run from. Notice that we've not done programming. You know, all the things we have been doing is setting setting properties. What does that mean? You know, you are just, declaring color, this, that. You are not making, if you have any experience with programming before, you understand that this is really not programming. You're not coding things. You're not making things happen. So now we are about to write a program. That's what JavaScript is all about. JavaScript is programming the client side. I'll repeat again. Although JavaScript now does server side, JavaScript is programming what you see on the client side. Since you'll be responsible for the front end web development, all the things you'll be doing, you'll be focusing on the client side. You'll be programming the client side in such a way that you will interact with it. Whatever the user does, you will be responsible for what they see in terms of programmatically, how they interact with the buttons. It will be your responsibility to tell the system what to do. So we'll be seeing that. How can you do that using JavaScript? Okay, so let's write a little bit of code. First of all, you need to have intention. What do you want to do? What do you want to program? So now we just want to do something small. No too much programming. Just something small, just for you to again appreciate what you'll be doing. You'll be learning. So let's say you have something here that says hello, and when you click here, you want the system to be able to display what is here. And this is looking so awkward. So let me just arrange that. The font size is too big, so let's make it 12. So I'm gonna adjust the padding to 10 px. Padding. Okay, so it's looking better now, but I'll now adjust let me say 8. I'll make this 12. Okay, so let's continue. So we want to, so that one more thing, apologies. I'm also a kind of a perfectionist, so okay, the button just made that rounded a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about how to achieve what we wanted to achieve. Whatever we type here, when we click on this button, it should, alert us what we've done here, and then there's quite a lot of scenarios that you have when you are doing this. You want to submit a form, you want to check what the user entered. I'm sure we all use web apps, or we all use web application whereby you type maybe a username, and then they say it has already taken, it has already been taken. All those things while you are typing, the system is checking it. How do they do all those things? That's what JavaScript is all about. It allows you to programmatically respond to people's entry or events or what they trigger on the system. And all this will be covered when we are doing JavaScript. We're just going to do something very small, very basic. So first of all, JavaScript is a programming language used for the web. Now they use it for backend, but we're just going to focus on that. And before JavaScript can understand what is on this page, you need a reference. I'll repeat that again. Everything on this page needs to be referenced so that the program will know that, oh, you're talking to this HTML. Oh, you're talking to this button. You're talking to this. So everything needs to be identified. So I will come here now and say on click, because these are an event that you can perform. There are events that you can perform on your web page, because this is interaction between the client, that's the person using it, and also the browser. If I click here now, as I'm highlighting now, I've done something. I've highlighted. Okay, so nice question. So question from someone saying, how will you know which color or border to use? This is purely design. I can just use some weird stuff and it will not make sense to the user. Do you get? So it's purely design. It's your choice. I just change this to red now. Is it looking fine? So you ask yourself that question. Whatever you are designing, is it looking fine? Is it looking better? That's something else entirely. Design sense is something else. Like, I can't teach you to design, but I can teach you what to do. We'll get to that when we come to design. One of the secrets of design is that you have to be very vast in what is out there. Like, imagine now, let's say you want to shop or you want to buy a new chair in your house, or you want to design your parlor, your sitting room. You would have seen how other sitting rooms look like. Like, that, okay, these are the kind of chairs you put here, these are the kind of things you put here. The same thing here too. So you must have seen websites before. You must have seen sites before and you've appreciated them, like, oh, okay, my own site too will look like this. Oh, these are what I'm going to put. And there's nothing wrong in copying, by the way. If I want to redesign Google page, like differently, pick this up and redo it, we can redo it. And even though there will be the idea that you copy Google, but you should be able to also bring uniqueness to it. So design is hard to learn, but the easiest way to learn design is by copying. And by the way, the greatest product is through copying. Apple copy, everybody copies. So there's nothing wrong in copying what you think you like and adapting it to your own and make it original. So you can copy and make it original to you. That's also another thing. So you must be vast, in the space you are in. If you want to be let's say you want to start designing website now, you must have been seeing websites and you must have been seeing good websites that says, okay, well, this is an example of this is what I want a website to look like. So that will be giving you ideas of colors to be using, of colors that will match together, of designs that will make sense. So you can begin to understand even how simple this Google page looks like. You can imagine what went to it, how the design team came up with these little things that you see. And you can pick this simplicity and turn it to your own and do something different out of it. So for me, when we come to, we might do another course on designing later down the year. There are few things that you need to understand when you are designing. White space is very important. White space is very important. When you have white space, it just makes things beautiful. Look at the Google homepage. Notice there's a lot of space everywhere, and they are evenly distributed. This design, evenly distributed. So we've not done a very good job. Let me give you small things that we've missed here now. You see this, the distance between I am and this edge is not the same between this and up. Those small things can goes a long way to say how you saw me that I was adjusting things, adjusting things. This font now is too bold. He's too bold. Look at their fonts. Do you see what they did with their own font? Very subtle and cool. So these are the things that you will learn over time as you are designing. Yourself, you will see that this thing I design is not fine. You then need to refine it. You then need to browse more. You then need to check more and see what other people are doing or other professional site looks like. The only thing stopping you now is the idea or the ability for you to think of a good design. Once you can think of a good design, you should be able to actualize it. With what I will teach you, everything that we're going to be teaching you, you should be able to actualize any good design from what we are going to introduce you guys to. So I believe I must have answered that question. Okay. So let's move on to, oh yeah, we're talking about JavaScript. We want to write a very small program and then we'll move on. Okay. So I mentioned that everything is an event. As I click on this page, I'm clicking right now, is an event. As I click on this, is an event. So we need to trigger one. I want to trigger a click event on this Google search button. So how do I do that? I say on click. It's by just specifying an attribute and saying on click. And I can write a JavaScript code here now and say alert. Just ignore all what I'm doing now, the coding and everything. So let me do, okay, I think I have a typo. So you can see what happened. When you click, you just put what you said there. Let me just come again and say hello. Hello there. So that's what I say you should do, that whenever you click this, you should say hello there. So it's as simple as that. You've just written a program, to respond to a click event from a user. Meaning once a user click, it says this. Again, what we want to achieve is that once they click, it will say whatever is inside this text box. So I want to bring out the code outside to make it more cleaner. How do we do that? I want to write it here by saying script. I introduce a new tag. There's a place here I just say script, meaning I want to write some program. And I want to create a function that says, what will I say? Search. Let me just say search. So once you search, I want to repeat the alert that says hello there. Okay, so I want to call this search from onClick. The only thing I just need to do, I just need to say search and remove all these parameters, and this should work. So if I do this again, it should work. Let me make this unique. I just hope this is not a keyword are words that you cannot use. Only, okay, so we have it there. So I think search is a keyword in JavaScript. So when you have a keyword, you can't reuse it to do anything. So look at what I've done now. I've rewritten all my code inside this named variable that I created. It's called a function. I rewrote it and put the code inside here. This way, I can write as many code as I want here. Like I can write as many line of code as I want to write here and not bother. And once I click here, it will go and execute the code. So because we're about to get to write lengthy code, that's why I put it outside here. So search will not be a right word to use. I'll just say display search term. Yeah. display search word. Yes. So again, I have to make sure that the name tally with the function that I've created. So this is a better name. Display search word. This is a better name for our function that we just created. So what is it that we want to achieve? We want to make sure that whatever that is typed here is shown here. Okay, we already have alert here. What alert does is it just display anything you say. It displays it to the browser. So how do we display what is inside here? Again, I mentioned that everything needs to be referenced. How do we reference this? We reference it by specifying the name of it. You can either use name to reference it and use the name in your coding, or we use ID. I prefer to use ID. So I will just call it search word or search text, search box. Okay, that's better. Search box, and that will be our name. Then to use it here, you can't just say search name. There are procedures to use those variables. So it's a little bit lengthy, but you get used to it. So I would say, even me to type itself is making me. You say get element by ID, and we have it there. I hope I'm typing the right thing. I hope I'm typing the right thing. Get element by ID. I hope I'm typing the right thing. Hello. Okay. Get element by ID. Okay, let me look this up. Must have made something. So I hope I'm getting the typo. Okay. So let's check now. Okay, so that's what we have there. That was what was missing. Was missing document.getElement by ID. So what this is telling the system is that it should go and get element. I told you that everything on the system is an element. Everything this is an element. HTML element is called HTML element, head element, title element. Even this is style element. Everything is an element. So here this is not an exception. Input element. So what's the name? Search box. So this one is saying document.getElement. What's the element by ID? The value is what? Display the value. So if I say hi there, search me this. So that's what's we presented here. So this is just how you could use JavaScript to do this. You've not even touched that. I don't want to go into programming, in details, but these are the things you'll be doing. Example again of what you'll be doing with JavaScript is you can be adding things to carts. When you are doing e-commerce, you'll be adding item to cart. It will be doing the addition of those items. So you can imagine like Jumia, where you add item to cart. Those computations, that it does, you will be doing that as well. You also learn how to do all those things, yourself. Do you guys have any questions? Any questions before I move on to the next thing? I'll tackle the next thing. So the next thing I have, apart from these three major things, is Bootstrap and React. We will not, because of the time, we will not go into React, but I'll just explain what Bootstrap is all about. I will explain what Bootstrap is all about. So if you notice, imagine, all these things we've written, and just imagine this button that we have here. Let me make it available. This button that we have here. Look at what I've used to achieve it. And you guys have, I'm sure you guys use Facebook. You will notice there are consistency in the design. Even Instagram. Look at Instagram, look at Facebook. Let's even open one of those platform. Instagram. But I'm not signed up in yet. Let me see if I can open Instagram here. Okay, I'm not logged in here. But let me open Yahoo if I can, if so that you can see what I'm trying to say. I want to give you an explanation of what Bootstrap is all about. Bootstrap allows you to create consistency in your content. So notice all these big products that you have. You have YouTube, you have YouTube, you have Facebook, you have Google. You notice that there's consistency in the way the spacing, the icons, the color, how it keeps everything in check. Even though you could do that manually, but it will be very painful. It will be very painful to be consistent in making sure that all your colors, all your picture, look at this color now. You know, we're trying to check this color to make sure that it tallies. Notice how we have to copy the colors. This is just one page, or it's even a sample page. So what does Bootstrap allow you to do? It makes those things easy, you know. So by the time we start doing that part, you will see how you can use Bootstrap to do project very fast. You can just do project in you can create a standard project in one day in terms of creating the Bootstrap. You know, you can just do that in one day and then you move on to something else. So you will learn how to use Bootstrap to do that. But the idea is you need to understand the basics, which is what I'm trying to let you guys know. By the time you understand these basics now and you start using Bootstrap, you'll be able to, you know, move on and do what you need to do. Focus on the request of the client versus focusing on the design. And this will also answer that question that one of you guys asked, which color to use. You know, because Bootstrap has gone ahead of you to give you, they would have created themes for you, makes it easy. So once you pick this theme, that is the theme I'm using, it's very easy. All those colors will just fit into place. You know, so you won't really need to worry yourself too much. You know, once you pick a template, it will be very easy. You will just focus on the content, you want to create, focus on the theme and the styling, the logo and everything, then you are good to go. So it's when you are creating things from scratch, like as we are doing, then you need to worry. But what Bootstrap brings to the table is that it creates a template for you to build on. That's the purpose. So, any question before we round up today's topic, today's teachings? Any question? Any question? Any question, guys? So our next virtual meetup will be on Zoom, so that we can have a more interactive session. You know, I want to, so it's not supposed to be one way. We're supposed to be able to communicate. I need to also see you guys if you guys can make yourself available as well. But the idea is to make sure that you guys are understanding this and then you are practicing. So I will leave you with this video. Very important. I hope you are still. I will leave you guys with this video. Um, just hold on. So you guys should go to YouTube. Go to YouTube right now, and there's a video I want you guys to go and watch. And you need to practice the samples there, the example, the exercise. I think one of you guys already started that. That's good. So you need to practice. So I'm trying to navigate to that video. So you want to learn HTML. So the reference material, the reference material is, I'm going to work on reference material. I'm going to work on it. However, we want to make everything digital, meaning videos, but again, we need to also work with what works with you. I know that people have different mode of learning. So let me know if you need a material read up, or I would prefer to do videos. I prefer to do videos. So if there's something that you want that I've not make available, that you want to have a video on something, let me know. I'll make those videos available. So this is the one that you should focus on, learning HTML here. So for this training, what I've just spent like 2 hours to do, I would like you to watch 2 videos. The first video is why is it difficult for me to find this video? Yes, starting a front-end web development. I'll put it on the group. In fact, I'll put everything in the group, what and in the Telegram group, so that it's supposed to track your journey to what you are doing. So this class is supposed to be an in-depth of the short form of the video, because the video is just 5 minutes, but this class was supposed to just blow everything up and give you guys more detail, about it. So please, let's talk more on the material that you say you want. I need to know what kind of materials that you'll be comfortable with, so I can communicate that to you guys in the group. I'll communicate in the group tomorrow. I will send the address where we're having it. Unfortunately, we have an engagement tomorrow to attend to, but I will see how we can still have this our physical class tomorrow. That's the hands-on. I believe that's what you mean by hands-on. So prepare your questions, guy. Prepare. So start practicing, because it's what you practice you'll be able to present as issues that you're having. So if you don't practice, there's no way that you're going to be able to, do a lot. So I need you guys to practice. Any more question before we leave? Any more question before we leave? So again, our next video is going to be on Zoom. I want it to be interactive. I want it to be class-like, so that it's not just be only me, saying stuff. I want you guys to also contribute. Okay, in the absence of no question, this video is live on YouTube. That's not the intention, because I want to make it exclusively for you guys. So we're gonna put the video, it's supposed to be on the Telegram, but because the glitch we had today, we had to put it on YouTube so that you could have access to it. So I'm waiting for someone is typing. Yeah, I mentioned physical class tomorrow. We are still holding physical class tomorrow. I will send the message to the group so that we have the time. I'm having engagement tomorrow. I don't want to cancel tomorrow's class. Tomorrow's class will happen. Tomorrow's class is gonna happen, but I just want to. I will communicate the time to the group this evening. I'll communicate the time to the group. Okay, guys. Thank you for joining the class. I think we'll see in the group. I will send in the